We'll start with the prayers. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahe Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahaihi. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We are studying Panchadasi, chapter 5, titled Mahabharata Viveka Prakaranam. We have seen the meaning of Mahabharata, and we have seen the context in which we study this chapter. All spiritual study, whether it is Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Sutra, or Upanishads, they deal with the spiritual essence in us. The spiritual essence in us cannot be objectified because it happens to be the subject. I, aham. Everything else is the object of this consciousness, the pure Chaitanya. When we enter a study like this, we should remember that we should not keep the format of Jiva, Jagat, Ishwara in our mind. When we transact in the world, I am a Jiva. Jiva means an individual with body-mind complex. Ishwara is the creator of this world. Jagat means the objective universe. So whenever I'm transacting in the world, I keep in mind a format which is called as triangular format. I am a Jiva. I have a body. I am acting in the world. The world gives me joy and sorrow. And there is a creator of this universe. This is explained in the first 12 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. The moment you come to the 13th chapter, the formatting of the mindset changes. It is no longer Jiva, Jagat, Ishwara format, a triangular format, a tripod, but it is a binary format. Binary format means I start looking at myself not as a body, not as a mind, but as Atma. Atma means consciousness. And what is the whole world? The world includes body, mind, and the entire objective universe. Complete. I put my own body, mind into the world, and that whole thing is called as Anatma. So, when I look at myself as an experiencer, no doubt I experience through the body and through the mind the world, but what is in essence is Chaitanyam or Sakshi principle. So this difference between the triangular format and the binary format you should keep in mind. Throughout the study of chapter 5, we should keep in mind, I am the Atma, the experiencer consciousness principle, and the entire experienced world is Anatma. That is the first thing you should keep in mind. The second principle you should keep in mind is this Atma consciousness can exist independently. Exactly like how I exist in my sleep state without the body, mind, and the world. So consciousness or Atma is an independent entity. It can exist without the Triputi called as the experiencer, experienced, and experience. Bhokta, Bhogaha, Bhogyam. That is called as Triputi. Triputi always exists in time, whereas Atma is beyond time. Without Atma, there is no Triputi. There is no world without Atma. This is the second principle you should keep in mind. See, these are all steps in understanding Atma. So first I said, Atma is consciousness. It is different from the body, mind, and the world. Body, mind, world is matter principle. Consciousness is the spiritual principle. Point number one. Point number two, this spiritual principle can exist independently. The matter principle is dependent on this consciousness principle. Because we are trying to understand the spiritual essence in us. When I try to understand the Mahavakyam is supposed to give me knowledge. That knowledge is about the spiritual essence in me. It is not about the body or the world. So these are the fundamental points you should remember when we understand this chapter 5. And whenever you are trying to understand or study any Bhagavad Gita or Upanishads or Brahma Sutra, these fundamental principles of the spiritual essence you should keep in mind. I will mention one more principle before we go to the chapter 5. The third principle you should keep in mind is this essence, the spirit in me is eternal. It has no birth, it has no death. Therefore, by knowing this essence in me, I can own up my immortal nature. Why do I study? What is the benefit of this study of this chapter? Normally, we all think that we are the body. We have birth, we have death. Vedanta says birth and death belongs to the body. It does not belong to the indweller consciousness principle. The more I identify with this consciousness principle as my nature, the more I will get benefit out of the spiritual study. Therefore, keep in mind that the text is giving me the knowledge of immortal self. It is teaching me something new. The subject matter of Panchadasi and this Mahavakya Viveka is, it is teaching me something new which I don't know about myself. So 3 principles, don't forget, 1, 2, and 3. Let this rotate in your mind. Let it, you remember this as often as possible. Whenever you're affected by the world, affected by the body, affected by your interactions in the world, take a back seat. Remember what you study in Panchadasi or in the Upanishadic class on the Saturdays. Try to remember. Even if you remember 10% of what you have heard, you will get a lot of benefit because you will learn how to take a step back from the world. We are all caught up in the world when we identify with the body and are acting throughout the day. If you don't come to study the Bhagavad Gita or the Upanishads or texts like this, you will never have the ability to take one step back and look at life. That is the vision of Mahavakya. With this, I will go straight to where we stopped last week. We have finished the definition of Mahavakya, why we study Mahavakya. Then we took up the first Mahavakyam, which is discussed in Panchadasi chapter 5, which is Prajnanam Brahma. This Mahavakyam, it is discussed in 2 verses. This occurs in Aitareya Upanishad, and 2 verses are devoted for this in chapter 5. We have finished verse number 1. We will study verse number 2. What is the essence behind this second verse? Second verse describes original consciousness and reflected consciousness. When you look at original consciousness, it is without any differences. For example, when I am in the sleep state, there are no differences experienced. No difference between me and the world, no difference between me and the other bodies. There is nothing. That is what is called as non-difference, abheda. The same consciousness, when it is experienced as Triputi, as body, mind, complex, and the world, and the experiences which we undergo, that is called as experience of reflected consciousness, which is called as Chit Abhasa. Abhasa means reflection. So when you study Upanishads and trying to understand Mahavakyam, you should have in your mind clearly what is Chit and what is Chit Abhasa. Chit means my own nature with my real self. Who am I? I am Chit. That is my real name for all of us. Pure consciousness. All of us are aware of it. but we don't know its nature. We are all confused between our nature of Chidabhasa and our nature of Chit. In the sleep state, I am experiencing my nature, my Swarupa. So all these experiences of the body, mind, world, these are all in the form of thoughts. The thoughts gets resolved in the sleep state. Whenever we experience thoughts or mind, it is called as Chidabhasa. When I don't experience the mind, it is called as Chit. Try to understand what I'm explaining to you now, because it's very, very important. If you understand this difference between Chit and Chidabhasa, what is the nature of Chidabhasa, what is the nature of Chit, you have understood 50% of Mahabharata. This Chidabhasa travels. It travels not only when it is in the waking state, but this Chidabhasa travels after dropping one body also. Travels to the next body. What about the Chit? Chit is consciousness. It never travels. The original consciousness, pure consciousness. Our entire focus of study of all the Upanishads is to know more about this non-traveling Chit. My mind is used to thinking about the world of objects and experiences. It never knows that there is another state in which it is existing but without any difference. Say, it is the same. Like, for example, the heat in the water. Water exists independently without heat. When the water gets boiled and when the water is boiled and when it absorbs the nature of heat from the fire, we call it hot water. So similarly, the Chidabhasa, when the mind is soaked with consciousness, then it is called as Chit Abhasa. But when the mind is withdrawn, the heat in the fire, the heat of the fire is withdrawn from water. The water exists independently. The water is like the pure consciousness. Consciousness with the mind, consciousness without the mind. Water with the heat, water without the heat. Just an example. So this Chit is also called as Brahman. And it is the Sutram. Sutram means what connects all the Jivas is called as Sutram. Sutre Maniganai Eva. Lord Krishna uses this term in Bhagavad Gita. I am the thread in which all the beads are strung. Similarly, consciousness, prajnanam, or another word for prajnanam is Brahman. And that is the thread connecting the entire universe. All the bodies, whether it is a Manushya body, a human being, whether it is animals, right from an insect to an elephant, all, whether it is Jivas, whether it is Devata, all are nothing but this spiritual essence. And what is the beauty of this consciousness the beauty of this consciousness is it is free from all limitations. See, this concept, free from all limitations, is a slightly difficult idea for a human mind to absorb. Whenever we say free from limitation, you must understand we are talking about three types of limitations. Time-wise limitation, space-wise limitation, object-wise limitation. Consciousness is not affected by time. That is why we all feel I am not changing. Yesterday also I was conscious. Today also I am conscious. Tomorrow also I'll be conscious. So consciousness per se is not changing. What is changing? What is experienced through consciousness is changing. The body is perceived. The body is seen, experienced. If I clap my hand, I can hear the sound. The sound is perceived. But then what is the real experiencer of the body, the clap, the smell? The real essence is consciousness. It is time-wise, means it remains immortal. Space-wise, there is no limitation, means it is all pervading. You cannot say that consciousness is here, but it is not in India. It is everywhere. It pervades the whole cosmos. This is an idea which a human mind, when you enter into the spiritual study, you have to learn to understand this. There is something which is pervading. Pervading means what? It is like the space. Space is everywhere in the cosmos. So similarly, consciousness is everywhere. And third limitation is object-wise limitation. What is object-wise? A chair is different than a table. Table is different than a stone. Stone is different than wall. Wall is different than diamond. So many differences are there. Humanness, animalness, birdness, ness means there is attributes connected with a certain species. Whereas consciousness is common. In all these objects, what is common? Consciousness. So therefore, we say it is limitation-less. Anyway, we'll study more about this, not only here, but we have studied in the past also what is limitlessness. But just to remind you that the second verse deals with Prajnanam Brahma. The third verse is, third and the fourth verse, they both deal with Aham Brahma Asmi. This occurs in Vedantic Upanishad. The reference number is given here. Chapter 1, section 4, verse number 10. For all these Mahavakyas, the reference number is given. If you want to study further, you can go back to that particular mantra and read the commentary. Aham Brahmasmi means I am owning that pure consciousness in this body-mind complex. And this is what is recommended in meditation. Whenever you sit in meditation, the feeling, bhava, which you should have is not a jiva bhava. You should have the bhava that I am of the nature of pure awareness. And as awareness, I am a sakshi to all the thoughts which occur in my intellect. I am the illuminator of whatever goes on in my mind, be it the perceptions which come from the eyes, be it comes from the ears, whether it comes from the nose, the smell, whether it is the tongue which is tasting the food. Some I enjoy good food, tasty food. So what is the tongue doing? The tongue is sending a signal to the mind. And the mind is enlivened by consciousness. Suppose the consciousness exists and the mind is passive, which is what happens in sleep state. The mind undergoes waking, dream, sleep. These three states belong to the mind. And the experiences in the three states are very different. But consciousness, which is illuminating the three states, never changes. That is what you should understand as Aham Brahma Asmi. It makes the mind live. Normally, we think it is the prana which keeps the body alive. When you come to Vedanta, you understand behind this prana, the functioning of the prana, there is a higher principle called as consciousness, called as Brahman. This is what a guru teaches a Sishya. Every student of Vedanta, when he comes to the Guru has to remove the wrong notions from the mind and put in new ideas in the mind. This is one of the most important ideas which are replaced when you come to Vedanta. We are not alive because of prana. We are alive because we are enlivened by a principle called as Sat Chit Ananda. A qualified student alone can claim this knowledge. It is a step-by-step build-up of knowledge, which is called as Atma Vidya. Very, very divine principle. It is a spiritual principle. It is an immortal principle. It will give you complete fulfillment in life. And through Vairagyam, you can appreciate this knowledge. Vairagya means what? Through detachment, mental detachment. In your own mind, you can detach from your identification with the body and the mind and claim this nature of consciousness as your real self. When you do that, what happens? Swayam Prakasha Swarupaha becomes known to you. It is self-illuminating. You see, this consciousness illumines itself. It is experienced without any effort. That is why in meditation, we just drop all our notions. just remain as the pure self. That pure consciousness is the lakshyartha. Lakshyartha means what? It is an indicative meaning, indirect meaning of the word I. What is the direct meaning of the word I? Aham. This body, this mind. This is called as aham when you are identified with the body. But Upanishads teach us about the spiritual principle, which is called as aham, without the identification with the body. There exists something. It is not a blank state like you experience in sleep. It is not blankness, but it is consciousness. It is existence, not with the help of a medium of the body, but existence by itself. It is separated. It is not with the sthula shariram, sukshma shariram, karana shariram. It is not consciousness plus the gross body, consciousness plus the subtle body, consciousness plus the causal body, but it is rahitam. Rahitam means without the three bodies. Then it is with the body. It is called as sakshi. The same consciousness has got two natures. One is with the gunas, it is called as sagunam. When it is without the gunas means what? Without the body-mind complex, without the world. This consciousness exists by itself. And that is what is called as nirguna atma. That nirguna chaitanyam, without any gunas, is called as Brahman. It is the same consciousness which is playing the role of a Jiva. It is playing the role of Jagat. It is playing the role of Ishwara. And this consciousness is Satyam. Whereas Jiva, Jagat, Ishwara is mithya. Mithya means it is an appearance. So all that knowledge is taught to us in this Mahavakyam called as Aham Brahma Asmi. That is explained in the third verse. The fourth verse is a continuation of this Mahavakyam. The same consciousness, when it is looked at from the entire totality of the cosmos, it is called as Brahman or Paramatma. Jivatma means connected with one body. Paramatma means connected consciousness or existence principle connected with the entire totality of all the jivas put together. There is the same consciousness. That is what is explained in verse number 4. Verse number 5 is another Mahavakyam called as Tvam Asi. It comes in Chandogya Upanishad, chapter 6, the 8th section, the 15th verse. What is the meaning of Tat Tvamasi? Tat stands for the same consciousness, spiritual principle. And here, this Tat is the Jagat Karanam. This consciousness is the cause of this entire universe. It is the creator of the universe. it enters this universe. It enters the body as Jivatma. It enters the universe as Paramatma. Before entering the Jivatma, before entering the individual body, what is that consciousness? It is called as Paramatma. And when you talk about that consciousness without the existence of the entire world, it is called as Brahman or pure Sat Chit Ananda principle. This is all explained in Chandogya 6th chapter. That is the Mahavakya chapter of Chandogya Upanishad. And it says that this pure Brahman is called as Sat, pure existence. And the same Sat with name and form and function is called as Paramatma. See, it is one non-dual principle. This is another important point you should understand when we discuss Mahavakyam. Non-dual means it is one principle which only appears as the word. This is what Lord Krishna wanted to bring out in the 12th chapter. Vishwarupa Darshanaha. One principle which appears as this whole world. 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita talks of this Vishwarupa Darshan. 10th chapter talks about the glories of this consciousness. Vibhuti Yoga. In the past, in the present, in the future, there is only one consciousness principle, and it is a changeless principle. By knowing that principle as my real nature, I become immortal. Amritatva praptihi. You may wonder, is it really possible that I am immortal? All of us have a notion. It is only a notion in the mind. That notion needs to be corrected. I am not. And it is possible through the study of Veda. Yeah? You must never forget, Veda is the pramanam. It is the instrument for immortality. By knowing the Mahavakyam, I will get the knowledge. Every intellect which goes through this knowledge will drop the notion that it is a limited jiva with sajatiya, vijatiya, swagata, bheda, with all types of differences. All differences are experienced only in time. In timeless nature, there is no difference. We are all the same consciousness principle. So that is 4 and 5. Verse number 6, Aham Brahmasmi is a new Upanishad, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. It occurs in chapter 1, verse 4, section 4, and verse number 10. Now, consciousness, when it is associated with the body, has a past, present, and future. It is kala sahitaha. When you say that there is this consciousness which is with kala, it is vachyartha. Kala rahitaha, that means without the time principle, it is called as lakshyartha. It is available now in this body, then it is called as vachyartha. Vachyartha means direct knowledge. And This principle called as consciousness or Brahman is available, and it is not only now, it is there in the past, it will be there in the future, therefore it is immortal. It is a fact. It is not, it is a fact available all the time. Then the seventh verse, I am Atma Brahman. I am Atma Brahma comes in Mandukya Upanishad. And I am means this Satyam, this Atma. This Atma which is there in this body, which is experienced by me as I, is Brahman. See, that equation of the self, the one self in this body, and the one self which is there in the totality, that oneness is established through the Mahabharata. This Atma is Pratyak. Pratyak means what? It is the innermost essence of the five koshas. The Sthula Shariram, Annamaya Kosha, is the grossest. But inside that Annamaya Kosha is the subtle body, the mind. Inside that mind is the intellect. Inside that intellect is the happiness, Ananda, which we all experience in the sleep state. Whenever we are happy, we experience that nature of pure consciousness reflected in the intellect. But innermost essence is what? Of this microcosm, the innermost essence is Atma. And when you look at the cosmos, the whole cosmos, the innermost essence of the whole cosmos is the same Atma principle, but then it is called as Brahma because it is huge, infinite in nature. So, the essence in me and the essence in the universe is the one principle. That is what you should remember as the essence behind all Mahavakyams. If you have understood so far, then you're ready to enter the detailed version of what we will see next week. In the 8th verse, it is a continuation of the I am Atma Brahma. And it talks about the macrocosm, the 8th verse. And we drop the name and form from the world in our own mind to understand what is this pure Sat principle. See, whenever we try to analyze that pure nature of the world, you always will come to the existence principle. So in the world, you will say a chair exists, a city exists, mountain exists, a river exists. Everything in the world is existing, 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 existing. So when you are trying to understand the world, the rishis have found a common factor which is there everywhere, and that is called as Sat. The rishis found out a common factor in all the human beings, living beings, and that is what is called as Chit. And then they discovered that the Sat principle in the external world and the Chit principle in the human body is the same. All these discoveries happen when a rishi is going deep into his mind. All of us are trying to understand that depth in us, that depth in the world. So that pure essence, it can be experienced by all of us as the witness of our mind. How do you know that you have the emotions? All of us experience our mind, but how do we experience that mind? And that essence which experiences the mind is called as this Sakshi. It is Nityopalabdhi Swarupaha. Nityopalabdhi Swarupa means it is the Atma principle. It is always there. Non-changing principle. Okay. So this is a bird's eye view of the entire 8 verses. I will now get into the text and go into verse by verse. Mahavakya, the definition is Mahatcha Asau Vakyam Cha. Mahatcha means what? It is a great statement, glorious statement. And it describes the beauty of this entire world. Like Taittiriya Upanishads, it says, Om Brahma Vida Apnoti Param Tadesham Yuktam Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma Yo Veda Nihitam Guhayam Parame Yoman Soshnute Sarvan Kaman Saha Brahmana Vipaschideti. What does this verse say? This is the first verse of the second chapter of the Taittiriya Upanishad. It gives us that the knower of this consciousness or Brahman, he attains everything in this world. And he realizes this consciousness in the cave of his intellect. That is the most important point. This gives us where to search for this consciousness. So when we study the Mahavakya, when we study the Upanishads, we should understand they are all talking about the inner essence of me. It is not something which you will see. It is not an object. It is the subject. And all of us can realize this. And there is immense benefit in realizing this in your own heart. You will lose your identification with the mind as Satyam. And you will start believing that I am something different than my mind. See, with the mind, we can know that the mind is different than the body. So body can be dropped. But difficulty is to drop the mind. Unless you know the Atma, the Sakshi, you can never drop your mind. That is why the Upanishad gives you a guarantee. You will get rid of all your sorrows. See, what a great promise the Upanishad gives. You come to the Veda, you will get rid of all sorrows. How? Because you learn there is something new, something which is the cause of the mind. And that is Atma. I am Atma Brahma. In the second verse, all this, what you see is nothing but the same Atma, same Brahman. And this Atma has got 4 features: waking, dream, sleep, and Turiya, which is beyond the waking, dream, and sleep. It leads you step by step and says that is what is Atma. Muktika Upanishad gives the names of 108 Upanishads. It's available. You want to learn 108 titles, names of Upanishad, go to Muktika Upanishad. It is available in Google. It will give you 108 names. That is why many of the teachers, they say there are 108 Upanishads. And descriptions in those, the verses are available for those 108 Upanishads. But all of them takes the same reality. That is the beauty of the Veda. 108 texts talking about the same subject matter. That is why Mahavakya is very, very famous. Sarva Vedanta Sara Bhutatva. Entire essence of all the Upanishads is in this Jiva Brahma Aikyam. Brahma Atma Aikyam. Jiva Ishwara Aikyam. Aikyam means oneness. Between Jiva and Ishwara, between Jiva, Jagat and Ishwara, between Ishwara and Jiva, there is only one essence. Totality and the individual. When we study Mandukya Upanishad, you must have studied the macro self and the micro self. That is how Veda teaches us to experience immortality while living. There is purnata, there is fulfillment. When our mind learns to understand this consciousness principle, the end result is purnaha. Purnaha means completeness. Every time when we chant, at the end of the class, we say, Purnamada, Purnamidam, Purnat Mudachate, Purnasya Purnamadhaya, Purnameva Vasishyate. That Purnam is nothing but consciousness. Every time when we end the class, we remember that consciousness by chanting that mantra. Again and again, when the mind goes to that pure self, it gets deeper and deeper, well immersed, so that we can never forget that consciousness while we are doing transactions. It can remain as the tambura shruti at the background. When that happens, what happens? What is the result of that? The result is atyantika dukkha nivritti, complete cessation of sorrow, and paramananda prapti, the attainment of the highest bliss which is possible in this cosmos. That is the benefit we get out of this study of Mahavakya. The Vishaya is known, the Phala is known. Phalam is Nishreyasya Praptihi. Absolute fulfillment in life. And what is the Vishaya, the subject matter? It is Jiva Brahma Aikyam. And it is given to whom? This knowledge is given to a adhikari. Adhikari means what? A person who has learned, who is ready for this knowledge, who has purified his mind through karma yoga, through upasana yoga. Once you purify the mind, you become a student like Shaunaka in Chandogya Upanishad. You become a student like Nachiketa, who is taught etat vaitat. So many times it comes in Kathopanishad. So Mahavakya has Anubandha Chatushtayam. It has in itself Adhikari, means Mahavakya is given to a right candidate. Mahavakya has got the Vishaya of Aikyam, oneness, of Jiva and Brahma. Then the third element of Anubandha Chatushtayam is Sambandha. You get the knowledge from the Veda, the knowledge which connects you with that text. Bodhya Bodhaka Bhavaha. Why do you study Mahavakya? Because of Sambandha. So why we see, whenever we take a text, we should analyze whether it falls into these four categories, the four aspects of study. And the last one is, you should understand, by studying this, will I get the benefit? The benefit of study of this Mahavakyam or portion is, I am free from limitations, that I am a Jiva. And what do I get? Moksha. Nitya moksha. I am ever free. I thought I was this body. With the study of this Upanishads and the Mahavakyam, I dropped that notion. It happens. You don't have to worry. You see this notion that I am the Jiva, automatically, slowly it withers. And then you have fearlessness. You don't fear death. You don't fear any change because you are the changeless consciousness. So it is the Shruti Sara. Mahavakya is the essence because it teaches me the final message of the Upanishads. With this, I will stop today's session. Next week, we will start verse number 1. Verse number 1 to 8, it's a very, there are only 8 verses in this entire chapter. I will start with this verse number 1. And you'll see the meaning of each one of them. If you have questions, we'll take it up one by one. But I'm sure you will enjoy these 8 verses because every verse is dealing with nothing but the essence in me. You see, all of us, we should realize that in this study, I am not learning something new in the world. The world of objects is a very different type of study. That is what you study in science. But when you come to the spiritual study, you are learning about consciousness. Don't forget this, because that will keep you interested in learning more and more about your own nature. You're not wasting your time. You are learning and enjoying this nature, enjoying this study. That is why people study so many Upanishads. Some people study 108 Upanishads. One by one, one by one, one by one. Because they have understood the essence. Then they start going and searching in that Upanishad. Where is that mantra? Which is the Mahavakya? In this Upanishad, which is the Mahavakya? In the other Upanishad, which is the Mahavakya? Because they know, they already studied 4 Upanishads and they have understood the essence. When you understand the essence, you understand Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, and Brahma Sutra, it becomes a cakewalk. Okay? Thank you. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnam Purnamudacchade Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnamevavasishyade. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. There are no messages in the chat. If you have any question, you are free to ask. You can unmute yourself and you can speak. Bhai, bolo.
If suppose somebody asks us a question, what is Atma? What shall we say?
Tell them to close the eyes and don't think about anything. Whatever is that feeling is the Atma. That is the easiest way to explain to a person what is Atma. Because Atma, it cannot be described in words. You cannot tell a person that Atma is of this color, this sound, this touch, this taste, this smell. You require attributes to describe something. You require some function to describe in words. Like, for example, a driver. You can say he is a driver. I'm going to explain this to you in the Saturday class. But I'm just explaining to you this next Saturday. I'm going to explain whatever you're asking is a very beautiful question. It is called as the conditions. There are 5 conditions required to explain anything in the form of word. Shabda nimittani. That is what are the 5 conditions. What are those 5 conditions? I'm going to explain in Saturday class, in the Upanishad class. But to come back to you, how to explain to some new person, what is this Atma? This is what the question of the Keno Upanishad student was. Exactly like you. He said, well, how to explain Atma? The student tells the teacher in Shankaracharya's Bhashyam of the 2nd verse, Shankaracharya writes a beautiful commentary, and he says, the student is saying to the teacher, oh teacher, I am asking you, there is some principle. What is that principle behind my ears? How does the eyes see something? How does the mind think of thoughts? How is the ear is listening to all? How am I speaking? So that question is the same question you are asking. How to describe? How to say this? Then the teacher tells him, the student, and then the student says, you are teaching me in a very indirect way. Shrotrasya shrotram, ear of the ear. What does it mean? Is there a second ear inside my ear? There is a second ear. These are all the factors which Shankaracharya explains in his Bhashyam. He says, is there a second ear? Is there something called as another ear behind my ear? No. It is the light. There is one light. There is one light which is the essence behind the whole universe. That is what is called as the light behind your ears. It is the same light behind your eyes. It is the same light by which your tongue is functioning. See, your tongue is speaking words. And you are listening. I am speaking, you are listening. But the light behind your ears listening and the light behind my tongue functioning is one light. That light is called as the spiritual light.
Can we say like super consciousness or what?
Yeah, it is super consciousness, or you can give it any name as such. You can call it consciousness, you can call it super consciousness, you can call it super waker. You can call it super waker status. For example, I am a waker, right? I am waker, I am attached to the body, I can see this body, I can see my hand, and I can see the world. Through my eyes, I'm seeing the form and color. Through my eyes, I'm seeing the color of my hand, the color of my skin. That is the waker. What is a super waker? Super waker is a person who has to the spiritual essence. And it is not through the eyes or through the mind or through the sense organs he becomes a super waker. He becomes a super waker by the knowledge of the Veda. Immediately, while seeing the hand itself, he knows, I am the awareness, I am the consciousness. You see, practically, a person who doesn't have the knowledge of the Veda, he will say, I am the body. And a person who has come to study the Keno Upanishad or this Panchadasi, what will that person say? In his own mind, he will say, I am the consciousness principle. I am the consciousness principle. I am the spiritual light. This spiritual light does not sleep. This spiritual light does not become a waker. This spiritual light does not become a dreamer. Waker, dreamer, sleeper are the names given to the mind and the body which wakes and sleeps. But I am the spiritual essence behind the body and mind. That is the teaching. That is the Mahabhakyas. By learning the Mahabhakya, I learn to discern my mind, to drop the identification of the mind only through Mahabhakya Vichara. Shankaracharya always explains in all the bhashyams and all the commentaries, he has explained this nature of our spiritual study. He says you go on studying the scriptures, but ultimately go to a guru and study the Mahabhakya, who will teach you the essence behind the Mahabhakya. It cannot be learned by just reading a book. You have to learn, you have to listen. Like I'm teaching you, the essence, there is only one spiritual light. Behind you, there is the same light. Behind me, it is the same light. Behind Chitra, it is the same light. Behind Murli, it is the same light. It is one principle. We are all one. That is what is the essence. And that oneness is Atma. I am. You see, everybody can say I am Atma. It's a common name. But you say, I am Babubai, I am Chandra, I am Lakshmi, I am Sumana, I am Chitra, I am Jacqueline, Soranam. All these are all names given to what? Given to the body. To identify one body with another body, we give a name. But essence behind them is this spiritual light. I remember this light when I wake up every day in the morning. Before I start my day, I just close my eyes and remember, I am the light of consciousness. This has been taught to me by the Veda. That is the truth behind not only this body, but behind the whole universe. That is the essence of the Mahabhakya teaching. We are studying the 4 Mahabhakyas to know when I get up in the morning, just 1 second you spend to remember that radiance in your mind. In this body, there is a radiance of consciousness. That radiance of consciousness can be known by every single person. Only thing is, you have to learn the Veda. The Veda will teach you the method of knowing that self. That is why you come in for the class. In the class, it's a step-by-step process of removing the skin. One by one, you remove the skin, and then you come to the essence. And the teacher knows the technique of removing the skin, removing that identification. So the best form of telling somebody, what is Atma? Please close your eyes. Just look inward into yourself. Feel the presence of awareness, consciousness in you. That's all. Tell him again and again the same thing. Please close your eyes. there is a light of consciousness awareness. See, when you say consciousness also, that person will start objectifying. Tell him, don't objectify. Don't try to look, but tell yourself, I am that consciousness. I am. When you say that, that is the technique which the teacher teaches. You can teach this to anybody. But you have to go through the process of learning the Veda. Veda means learning the Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita. What happens is, slowly your mind gets purified. And everything the Veda will tell you about this consciousness, it is immortal, it is fearless, it is all that you will get it. Everything which the Veda teaches, you will feel it. You will drop your fear of death. You will drop your fear because the repetition of the Veda is, I am nitya muktaha. I am ever free. Ever free means what? I am free from this body identification. As me, the body is still there. Body will go through its prarabdha karma. So what I experience is a karma phala. It is the fruit of karmas done of the past in different bodies, but that is how Veda explains it. But it is not me. But that you will get as you learn. Every time you come to this class, you learn a little bit, your mind gets purified. More the mind gets purified. See, you can purify external things with some powder and all that. You can, you want to clean a plate, you can use a powder to clean a plate. But how to clean your mind? It's not possible. It's only through listening. Again and again listening and say, no, I'm not the mind. I'm not the mind. I'm not the mind. Then what happens? And suddenly a day will come, you'll say, oh, I was just identified with the mind and then I became sorrowful. But then I am not that. The Veda says clearly. When you hear 20 times, 100 times, you're not the body and mind. Nirvana Shatkam, every mantra of Nirvana Shatkam, you try to remember. Shivoham, Shivoham. Inside you, you will bubble with joy of Shivaha. You will bubble. You will say, that fulfillment comes in the way of that joy in you. And it comes. Definitely it will come to students of Vedanta. Because that is what is the promise given by the Veda. And people who are listening to these talks, they will tell you, yes, I have felt it. Without this knowledge, I would have been miserable Jiva. Miserable means I would have thought again and again about all my sorrows. But with this knowledge, I am sure I know that this knowledge has benefited me personally. That's all. Okay, very good question. Thank you.
Can we say because it's formless, so we cannot be described?
Yes. You see, I will explain to you more details about it next week or this Saturday and the following Saturday. See, Atma cannot be described. Therefore, we say neti neti. It is not this, it is not this, it is not the body, it is not it is not the intellect, it is not the sense organs. Because there is no other way you can describe something. You are right. Because it is formless only, you can't describe. Anything with form means what? Attribute. Attribute means what? Color, features. Anything which has got jati, guna, sambandha, rudi, these are all the conditions. Suppose, anyway, I don't want to go to the depth of it because I will be explaining this to you shortly.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Lalita is asking, when we did this meditation today, I experienced a slight heat in the body on one side. Is it normal? Well, it is. See, what happens is, in meditation, when you are focused, then you become aware of the conditions of the body also, much more deeper than normal person. So it is very natural. You might have felt some heat somewhere, it's possible. It is very, very normal, so don't worry about it. Anybody else has any other question?
Mr. Shekhar.
Yeah, Jacqueline, tell me.
The pure consciousness, the Atma, is just forever, infinite, and eternal.
Yes.
So for us as a human, we come to this world that not that we want to, or not that we know what we will or we would, and it is just happened that we have to go through the process that we go to the mother's womb, and then day by day the father, the mother bring us up, and until one day my body is not there, then I jump into another body. So
yes.
So basically there's no because of the mind, then we say, hey, we need to eat, we need to have a roof. But basically, whether it's all planned or it's all unplanned, it just happened, right?
Yes.
Because no, I just happened to listen to knowing and being. So
Yeah.
it was very interesting that it said knowing. Yes, I know that I'm wrong, but not that I want to do it, So that is interesting. Basically, it's like whether you do or don't do, it will just happen, right?
Yes.
Just like COVID. It's blessing that we are still around, but it just happened that we do or we don't do, but then also it's no good for human being. The mind is like, if you don't do, you are very passive, and you just like you don't have desire to do anything. I mean, according to the human being, that is wrong, but according to Atma, maybe that's not wrong, right?
Yes.
Am I right to say that?
Yes, you're right.
So who are we?
Okay. See, in your speech of 2 minutes, 3 minutes, you are identifying with either the body or the mind. But again and again, when you identify with the body, you say, I am born. The birth belongs to the body. It is a kosha. It is a sheath of the pure consciousness. It is only a covering. You remove that covering, you are the spiritual life. You take the covering, you put on that covering, you become the body, you become the mind, you become the intellect. So you should remember that whenever I'm talking about my experiences, all my experiences are with the body, with the mind. All, right from birth to death, every single moment, whenever you say it is an experience, the moment you say it is an experience, then the mind is involved. The moment mind is involved, the body is involved. So, when you use language to explain what you are feeling, you are using words to describe your experience with the mind and the body. It's connected. What Veda teaches is, try to separate the experiencer mind, experienced object. Okay? The Veda is teaching you this step by step. It teaches you that the mind is the experiencer. And you are experiencing the world, okay, that's no problem. The moment you say, yes, I got into this body, then I will drop this body, I will go into another body. The moment you're talking about the body, definitely you're born, you're gone. But the moment you shift your attention to the light of awareness, pure consciousness, then what happens? That there is no, it is always free from the body. It is in the presence of that consciousness, this body and mind wake up every day as per the law of the body and mind. Like the sun, you see the sun, you can see the sun shining. You can see the gravitational forces working in the world. The earth has a gravitational force. It never changes. The sun is moving, the speed at which it is moving, same. The galaxies are moving, cosmos is moving, same. But you see, when you look outside through the sense organs, you will see differences. You will see the law of nature. You will experience the law of nature. Everything is beautifully timed. Everything, A to Z. Because, see, you should learn how to have the vision of the world and how to have the vision of the spirit, the spiritual essence in you. There are two different visions. When you are in the world looking as a human being, there are differences. You have birth. Nobody can say I don't have birth because you are experiencing the body, right? Yes. So always try to take a bird's eye view, come out of that body identification, and try to look at your life. Then you will say, whatever the body is undergoing is, I have no control on that.
Yeah.
Nobody has control.
That's exactly the point. I mean,
yes.
That's the process, that's the principle of us being a human being. There's
Correct.
no control at all. I mean, the COVID
yes.
was there and the 9/11 was there and people are happily going to work, but it didn't happen, So
That's
there's
right.
no control at all. So if we sleep, we go, So because we are a human being, we say, okay, I'm sad. But then, I mean, if it is the law of karma, it is the Atma, in fact, we can do nothing, right?
Yes.
But
no. As Atma, you are not doing nothing. You are a pure being in the light, in the pure. You see, this question is answered by Shankaracharya in his Keno Bhashyam, in the commentary on Keno Upanishad. There are two types of causes. One cause is an activator. Another cause is a blesser. Blesser means in the presence of everything else happens. That is also a cause. There is another cause which is the direct cause. Like the heat in the water. The direct cause is the heat coming from the fire. So similarly, the cause, there can be a direct cause, there is an indirect cause. So all of us, when we look at the world and our experiences, you will experience that there is some law which is governing it. But the moment you shift your attention to consciousness, you will find that everything, whatever you have understood about the world and the cosmos, about the entire Anatma, the whole thing becomes irrelevant to you the moment you switch to the indirect cause, which is the consciousness. There is, in all our life, Murli had asked this question some time ago. He asked the question, is the cause the mind for all whatever we experience? Then I told him that is a direct cause. there is an indirect cause, which is the consciousness. So, Jacqueline, very good question. You have answers, you have known, you have been listening to these talks for such a long time. You have most of the answers. You are trying to put all the jigsaw puzzles together in your own mind. I am very happy to see how you are able to give your answers yourself. Very good. Keep it up.
But I'm still confused.
Don't worry. Your confusion has gone less and less. From the question you asked me now, your confusion has reduced by 50%.
Okay, appreciate.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else?
No, in fact, I shouldn't say I'm confused. It is the consciousness that direct me in this manner.
That's correct. See, the moment you come to the field of consciousness, all your doubts gets resolved. Because it is in that light, in that radiance only the mind is operating. Mind is very limited, you know. It can only think. See, you just observe your mind whenever you go for a walk. Just observe your mind, how it goes into different topics. Suppose you walk in a garden alone for 20 minutes. Just watch your mind. You will be able to watch your mind. You go to botanical garden and just take a walk, and then what happens during that 20 minutes or 30 minutes? Your mind is dwelling on topics after topics. But you will find the nature of the mind is so fickle. It cannot hold on to one topic for a longer time. It will think of one topic for 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. Suddenly it is so fickle, it will change. Suddenly it will change to some other topic. Again, after some time, it will change to another topic. It is never constant. It can never hold on to any object in the world for a long time. Never. That is the nature of the mind. And what happens is, then you try to ask the question, in what light this mind is working? That is the question of Keno Upanishad. How does the mind work? How does the mind think? What is that power which directs the mind to different objects in the world? And why mind thinks of these things today, it never thought of these things 10 years ago. There is a principle, there is a law. This mind will think of this thing in this time. And that is what is determination of the quality and quantity of life. Each one of us has a different quantity of life. I live for 50 years, somebody lives for 80 years, somebody lives for 46 years. How? What is this determining factor? The determining factor, there is a law. There is a law. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
There is a law. You are asking this question. How come so many people lost their lives in COVID?
Yeah.
I'm still surviving. I'm listening to the talk.
Yeah.
I'm bustling with energy. Why? You see, in a plane crash, you will find 100 people are dead. There is one person who is alive. How?
Yeah, exactly.
Law of karma. There is nothing else which can explain this. So, ultimate answer is, whenever you are trying to find answers to your experiences, you apply the law of karma. Whenever you are trying to ask the question, who am I? You apply the law of sakshi, the witness, the consciousness. Who am I? I am the witness. Am I there during all the experiences or not? Of course I am there. Without this light of consciousness, nothing can be experienced. What am I experiencing? I'm experiencing the laws of nature, law of karma, action, reaction. It is happening. Let it happen. As long as there is a law which tells me I have to experience these things and so time. Let it come and go. I am not bothered. It will come, it will go. There is a at a particular time, certain things happen in life. Somebody gets married at a particular time. Somebody gets, separated at a particular time. Somebody has children at a particular time. Somebody has no children at another time. See, all this is all governed by what? There is some superpower. Some supercomputer is there which is now controlling all this.
Yeah, amazing also the way that he control, or he or she.
See, we don't know. You see, if we just look at a flower, you just look at a flower or a tree or a fruit. Human knowledge is very limited. It has not gone into the depth of just looking at a flower and a leaf. You don't know. Your knowledge is very limited. But there is something which is unlimited, timeless, which is what we are studying in the Upanishads.
So never fear anything.
So don't dwell too much about the world. Let it go on. It's okay. If the thoughts of the world come, just tell your mind, okay, forget about it. Now let me.
Fearless.
Yes, become fearless. Okay, good question, Jacqueline. Thank you.
Appreciate.
Okay, we'll stop today. It's 8:30 now in Singapore. So we'll continue next week. Continue listening and see when your mind listens to these and it dwells on something. These are all new areas for the mind. Let your mind become rich in this knowledge. Okay? Expose your mind. That's all. Just listen, expose your mind. Automatically, there is some change, some transformation which will happen in your mind, which will give you peace of mind and fulfillment in life. Okay? Thank you. And
Hari Om.
Thank
Good
you.
night, Shekaji.
Hari Om, Shekaji.
Hari Om, thank you.
Thank you.
Good night,
Good
Shekaji.
night.